This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. And this one comes from Sarah Michnik. And she asks me to review, in a way, to comment on the argument that capitalism depends on imperialism, that the foreign activities undertaken by capitalist societies around the world, mostly European societies for most of capitalism's history, in trying to control much of the rest of the world in their own economic interests. And I'm glad to comply. It is one of the topics I worked on early in my academic career. I wrote about it. My doctoral dissertation was about what England did in East Africa and was literally a case study of modern capitalist colonialism, in this case in the country we now call Kenya. In any case, let me review the story. Basically, capitalism involves an economic system in which the capitalist focused on profits, the famous bottom line, ultimate goal, point and purpose of their activity, and capitalists like to control as much of the environment in which they function as possible in order to make as certain as possible that they will be successful, that they will make a profit, that it will be a secure profit, that it will be a growing profit. And they try to control the situation in their home area, in their surrounding areas of their own nation, and, as has been the case from the beginning, trying to go abroad as necessary, as opportunities arise, to extend their controls over there, beyond what they already have over here. And they don't hesitate to turn to the government, as they did in establishing their control domestically, asking the government to help them do exactly the same abroad. And of course, this now runs into an immediate problem. And that is that capitalists are busy doing what I've just described wherever they are, in England, in Germany, in France, in Belgium, in Spain, in Portugal, in the United States, in Japan, and so on. So immediately there's a problem of conflict. They bump into each other because any two capitalists, one say in Britain and one say in Germany, are busy pressing their government to get control, say, of a corner of Africa that offers them profit, or a corner of Latin America that offers them profit. And when they get into conflict over which one of them, then the government and the companies that are looking for the opportunity can sometimes push things so a war breaks out. And if you're ever interested in understanding, both World Wars I and II, for example, arguably among the worst global wars the human race has ever seen, come directly out of competition for colonial profitability between quite the same group of countries: Russia, Germany, England, the United States, and so on. There was a wonderful book written many years ago called Europe, the World's Banker by Herbert Feiss, F-E-I-S, which shows you how the competition over colonial territories and profits led to World War I. It's a beautiful demonstration, and there are many other books that do that kind of thing as well. So now the question is, has anything changed? And the basic answer to that is not much. The biggest change has been in the form that imperialism has taken. From the formal arrangement of colonies Britain, for example, snatching parts of Africa, declaring them to be protectorates or colonies or whatever words they used, and basically taking them over, sending in British citizens to be the government, to be the controllers, and so forth. And many of the other European countries did likewise, as the United States did as well, making them part of the metropolitan country. For a century, Algeria was a part of France, as some colonial territories still are. Puerto Rico is part of the United States in a way that the Virgin Islands, for example, aren't, and so forth. Sometimes these things changed, but mostly they didn't change much. Even the big examples, India fighting for independence after World War II, and so on, quickly demonstrated that you can run a colonial empire without formal colonies perfectly well. Indeed, the leader in that operation was the United States, which replaced formal colonialism after World War II, when the mass of Africans and Asians and Latin Americans rose up against colonialism because they felt ripped off. In this situation, the United States came in, championed anti-colonialism, and quickly set up a non-formal empire that worked just as well to bring profits to the United States as the colonial empires had done that for Britain and France and Belgium and Russia and so on beforehand. What are the basics that didn't change? Colonial areas, the rest of the world, are supposed to be controlled so that they provide inputs to the parent companies, the rich, older, more developed capitalist countries, food, raw materials at advantageous low prices, in advantageous quantities, under advantageous control. They're also supposed to be a place where you can sell the output of advanced industrial countries in markets where you have various kinds of advantages. In the old days, the colonial administration would simply not let other people's products in. Nowadays, you have to make a deal, provide a little foreign aid to the government, and that'll get you the same result. Nowadays, you also have corporations who want to invest in these countries, take advantage of their low wages, take advantage of the lower bribes you need to give to officials when compared to the bribes you have to give here in the good old US, for example. There are all these advantages which your foreign policy, your military bases around the world that the United States keeps, will enable you to profit from. And so, of course, all of that is maintained, not because the United States is threatened by anybody's military capabilities, but because we want the power, the leverage, the fear to operate to get American corporations all kinds of advantages they would have harder time getting otherwise. Last point, the US dollar is another part of our empire. Because of the dominance of the United States, particularly after World War II, the US dollar became the global reserve. Lots of business is done around the world, outside of the United States, by people buying and selling goods to each other for dollars. Virtually every central bank of every country in the world keeps dollars alongside gold and so on as the reserve to back the value of their currency. Think of it this way. Every time a dollar leaves the United States, it can either do that to buy something that is valuable for us or not. If it buys something valuable, say a bottle of French wine, then the dollar goes over there, and typically, if it's France, they use that dollar to go back and buy something from the United States, a bushel of corn, a software program, whatever it is. And so in the end, we work to produce goods, which we send to them for money, which they use to buy goods we've produced. But it's different if your currency is the world's currency, because now here's what happens. You use it to buy the bottle of wine, but it doesn't come back to buy anything from you. It sits in the vaults of the Bank of France. It is used for transactions between French people and those they buy oil and gas from, say even the Russians these days. Which means you can send green pieces of paper, dollars, and you don't have to send goods and services. The rest of the world sends you goods and services. You send them green pieces of paper that cost nothing. Having your currency be the world's currency brings you enormous advantages which you hold on for dear life, as the United States is now doing. So yeah, to the question, does the empire that still exists, however informally, is that a basic part of American economic well-being? You bet. That's what keeps our profit system going. And in order not to be dependent on that, in order not therefore to be militarily active around the world, becoming a scourge and a burden and a threat, you would have to face the fact that a fundamental economic reorganization is necessary in the United States, because the dependency, like an addiction, on empire runs very deep in capitalism and always has. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work, reminding you that if programs like this are of value to you, help us to continue to produce them. Go to our website, democracyatwork.info, and you will be shown all the different ways you can be a partner and be supportive of bringing these messages to the widest possible audience. Thank you.